So Versed Skincare has come out with makeup. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Versed Skincare, the drugstore skincare brand, has come out with an entire makeup line. I have almost everything. I have one of every kind of major makeup product. There's like certain things that I don't have, like the lip polish. I don't have that, and like some other smaller items, but all of the main products in the line I do have. I had planned on buying most things in the collection, but not everything, and I had made a TikTok about the things that I just didn't think from the line were going to work for me, or I didn't think that they looked like they were going to be good quality products. And Versed actually saw that video and reached out to me and very kindly said, hey, we really believe in our products, in our formulas. We want to send you some of the things that maybe you were nervous to buy or you didn't think would work, because we really think that they're going to work. So I'm gonna be extra critical on those products, maybe a little bit. So with each product, we are going to go over the ingredients, the formula, the skincare ingredients in each of them, the price point of all of the products, and of course, the performance and how the products wear. So without further ado, let's just get right into the nitty gritty. So as we said, Versed is a skincare brand. They've had an entire skincare line for a very long time. They are pretty well known in that kind of mid-range drugstore price point, maybe a little bit on the higher end of drugstore. Most of their products are around $20 or below. 20, 25 I feel like is their max. Nowhere near Sephora pricing, but not like e.l.f. pricing. I would say maybe their most similar kind of competitively priced brands would be things like Naturium, L'Oreal, Saltaire, those kinds of brands. And I think the pricing of this collection actually falls pretty well within that. Most things in this collection are between $10 and $20. The skin tint is the most expensive thing, I believe, in the entire collection. It is $19.99. So $20 for a skin tint. That's actually a lot cheaper than like Maybelline, L'Oreal, CoverGirl skin tints that they've been coming out with. So in terms of price point, I'm actually not mad about it. I think it is quite affordable within the range of other brands that they are kind of settled with. And because Versed was a skincare brand first, they do have kind of a skincare lens going into their makeup line. If you want to see my entire thoughts on putting skincare ingredients in makeup, you can watch this video right here. However, this is a little bit different because they are not making claims like with the Glow Recipe blushes. They're not saying this has 3% niacinamide, so it's going to clinically proven to brighten your skin tone. It's going to have this X, Y, and Z effect on your skin. They are not saying that. They are just kind of saying, hey, these are our makeup formulas. We put a couple nice skincare ingredients in here. We're gonna call them out just so that way you know that they're in here. And those ingredients that are being called out in these products are probably ingredients that were going to be in it anyway, whether or not it was a skincare focused company or they were going to make skincare callouts. Like take for instance the blush stick. The ingredient callouts in this are jojoba oil and then fatty acid complex. So the jojoba oil, they say, is moisturizing and gives it a dewy glow. Was probably going to be in there anyway. They're not saying it's going to hydrate your skin by like this percentage. They're just saying it's going to be like a nice creamy moisturizing dewy formula. Totally fine with that. I have no issues with those claims. And before we put it on the face, I kind of feel like I need to go over my expectations for these products based off of what the brand has said. So the company, when they reached out to me, they said that their products are designed to be super buildable and thoughtfully formulated for a wide range of skin tones. So I assume that everything is going to be pretty sheer upon first application, but it is going to build nicely and be able to build to much more pigmentation without pilling, getting patchy, any sort of separation, any sort of bunching of the product. And I, because of what they have said, expect that all the way from the skin tint to the blush, to the bronzer, to the liquid eyeshadow, to the lip gloss. I did want to point out, just in shipping, some of the products got a little busted. You can see all of these kind of came out of the package a little bit, got all over the cap, smushed up to the top. This primer actually came unscrewed, like it's a airless pump, but this was like this when I got it. I'll insert pictures of when I opened the box. So I don't know how much of that is on Versed and how much of that is on like shipping and handling. And some of the boxes were a little bit dented, so I feel like I'm gonna count that against shipping and handling rather than Versed. So just wanted to point out they may not travel the best in a box. There was also no any sort of bubble wrap or tissue paper in the box. They were just kind of thrown in there, so maybe Versed adds some bubble wrap or like some sort of a padding to your boxes. Most of these are first impressions. However, a couple of these products I have used once, twice, maybe 3 times, so I have a little bit more thoughts on those. I'll let you know what is what. Let's start with the Smooth Skin Face Primer. The ingredient callouts in here are hyaluronic acid and niacinamide. Sure, you're not really gonna see any effects from that niacinamide unless you are applying this to bare skin. I personally have a moisturizer on, and so I don't, I'm not expecting to see any sort of effects from the niacinamide. So that's about 2 pumps. I'm gonna start with that. This is a smoothing primer. However, it does not have any silicones in the formula, which are typically what is in smoothing primers. That is what gives that smooth feel, that blurred look, and that kind of pore filling property comes from silicones like dimethicone. So we will see how smoothing and blurring this is. The third ingredient overall is calcium sodium borosylate, which raised a little bit of red flags for me when I was reading it, because that is typically a filler ingredient. That is something that is just used to bulk up formulas. But since there are no silicones in this formula, it could be in there to help with the smoothness of the product, the texture, and the glide across the skin. That being said, just rubbing this on my skin, I wish there were silicones in here, because this is not that smooth. It doesn't glide across the face. It does also have silica pretty high up in the ingredients list, which is a powder that is in HD powders. That's what gives it that really finely smooth, almost invisible finish on the skin. So those I think are what are replacing silicones, but those, you know, are both powders. And I just wish that this had a much smoother feel, a much nicer glide, because there really isn't one on the skin. I do feel like I'm tugging at my skin just to put this on. My pores are still very visible. I'll get you close up on my pores. I can still see everything. I don't feel like anything is blurred. I would prefer a little bit of a softer texture and a little bit more of that glide. This does have a very high concentration of powders, so I definitely feel that on the skin. So first impression, not loving this, but let's see how the skin tint applies on top of it. This is the Skin Solution Multi-Serum Skin Tint SPF 40. This is 13.1% zinc oxide. It looks like a very standard skin tint, but since this is an SPF 40, we all know you should not be getting your SPF from your makeup products. You should be using a separate SPF to make sure that you are getting proper coverage, which proper coverage usually is about 1/4 teaspoon for the face and neck. So I just want to see how much of this is a 1/4 teaspoon. So how many pumps is going to be that 1/4 teaspoon?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7.
So roughly 6 pumps is going to get you to that 1/4 teaspoon. I don't think anyone's going to be using 6 pumps of this, but let's put this on the back of the hand. I just have a feeling most people are not going to be using this much foundation. Please use a separate SPF before you go in with this product. Okay, I just pulled this out. I don't know why the straw is shaped like that. That is interesting. It is quite thick as well. It's not very runny, very drippy. Also, does the packaging remind anyone else of CL? Just saying. And I have the shade 1C in the skin tint. I also have the shade 1C in the concealer. And I will say the concealer I have tried, and that does oxidize a bit. So I am curious to see if the skin tint oxidizes as well. And I do have the Face Diffuser Multitasking brush. This is kind of like an angled sort of brush, a very popular shape in the past few years. They say you can use this for the face, the cheeks, and the eyes. So we're going to try and just use this one brush to do our entire look today. I'm going to pick up some of that skin tint from the back of my hand and then go in that way. The shade starting off seems like a good match. Again, this is 1C. This is the lightest shade. It is fair with a cool undertone. Smells like a sunscreen. It does have a sunscreen smell. Don't love that, but it does really smell like a sunscreen. Okay, has a little bit more coverage than I expected from a skin tint. Normally I expect pretty sheer coverage from a skin tint. I would put this at light coverage, not sheer. Definitely has more coverage than the CL. The CL is a very sheer. You can still see everything, but it doesn't look like there's nothing on the skin. It's doing a little bit more than just evening the skin tone. So this is one side with the skin tint. I actually think it looks really nice. It looks very light coverage, pretty skin-like compared to with nothing. You can see some of those smaller post-acne marks are covered, but those big ones are very much still visible. But just evened out the skin and then like a little bit more. It's not clinging to any dryness. That's my big issue with the CL. The CL looks so stunning, but it does cling to my dry patches, so that's why I don't use that one. But this one is not clinging to anything. It's not bunching around the nose. Very nice. I like it so far. I like the initial lay down. Okay, so now I have the skin tint all over my face. I think the lay down is very nice. In terms of my skin looking smoother or my pores being blurred, there is absolutely no difference in whether or not I used this primer. I do not recommend it. It is not smoothing out the application of the skin tint whatsoever. And the shade is quite pink in tone, and it remains pink in tone. It doesn't oxidize into a yellow or an orange. So if you are very fair and you struggle to find pink tone foundations that stay pink, this is a really, really great shade. It does have a scent, which I don't love. It does have that sunscreen smell. I can smell it just like sitting on my face. So don't love that, but the finish is nice, good light coverage. No real complaints thus far. The brush is pretty nice. I'm gonna wipe off the skin tint a little bit and then concealer. Now let's get into the Skin Solution Serum Concealer. I have used this, I believe 2 or 3 times already, so I have a little bit more thoughts on this. This is not a first impression. Again, I have the shade 1C, so the same shade as the foundation. And then this does oxidize slightly. I'm gonna swatch a little bit on my hand right here. But the good thing about this is that it does oxidize fairly quickly, so you can probably already see that color transforming into a darker shade. It gets a little bit more peachy rather than staying nice and pink. So not the worst shade on me. I can deal with the oxidization a little bit, but if you are any fairer than me, the concealers are just a no-go. And this is formulated with kojic acid and caffeine. Caffeine is supposed to help depuff and energize the under eye area, so love that. Have no issues with that being in a concealer. And the kojic acid is to brighten. I don't really expect to see any results from that, again, because we are wearing sunscreen and moisturizer and skincare underneath all of this. So the doe foot is quite large and the end of it is very, very flat. So it doesn't have any sort of rounding to it. And when it's on the skin, it feels very flat, like the edges around that circle are quite hard. And you can see right there, freshly swatched versus leaving it there for a minute. But it does oxidize very quickly, so you don't have to wait to see what it's gonna dry down to, but you can see it definitely does oxidize darker. But the formula of this is very, very nice. It is very lightweight. It's called a serum concealer, and this is one of the few products where I would 100% agree with those words. This is a very lightweight, really does feel very thin, hydrating like a serum, and once it's blended out, it really, really looks like it's a part of the skin. This does blend out pretty nicely with the brush. However, I do just prefer to use a sponge with this for a more seamless blend. And I'm not surprised about this application because the formula, the ingredients list does look quite impressive. It looks very, very smooth, very, very moisturizing, very nice. The texture is really nice to work with under the eyes. I'm not saying that in terms of like serum skincare, more so that serum texture lays very beautifully under the eyes. And this does claim medium coverage. I would say we got pretty light coverage there. I am going to try and build it up more to medium because they say this is medium buildable. I have not experienced that with that one layer that's pretty light coverage, so I want to see if we can build that up to get more coverage. And very little product does come out on the doe foot, so I feel like it's kind of made to be applied in very light layers, which is very nice. Okay, so we were able to build it up a bit. I feel like we're approaching medium coverage. Maybe I can still see some of that darkness in the hollows of my eye right there. So slightly buildable, but this concealer is not what I would go for if you are someone who has decently prominent dark circles. I find this to be more on the lighter coverage side rather than that claim of medium to buildable that they make. So this one, I don't agree with that claim. Once I built it up, it's not laying as smooth. Let me try and go over that with a sponge and see if we can smooth that all. Yeah, see, even just tapping over it with a sponge really helped smooth that out. And now moving into the cheek sticks, I have the bronzer, the blush, and the highlight, and all three of these really look like they were made from the same base formula. Like they started with the same base and then kind of branched them off very slightly to get the highlighter, the blush, and the bronzer, which honestly makes a lot of sense to me. So I expect them all to perform very similarly. And the claim on these is that they are very sheer but able to be built up, again, seamlessly. The bronzer is one of those things that I had put in that video of things that I didn't think would work for me from this line, because this is the lightest shade August, and all of these sticks, by the way, are $14.99, but this shade August says it's for light to medium complexions, and I have very fair skin. And in the pictures online, this shade looked quite orange, even on the model, which, you know what, I will give them credit. All of their pictures online on their website, all of the marketing photos, they all look very real. They look unretouched, and by that, I mean, you can see some imperfections in the pictures. Like this pulled very orange on the model. I feel like a lot of brands maybe would have color corrected that. The lip serums that we're gonna get into at the end, I personally didn't want to try those because the colors looked like they pulled in the lip lines. They didn't try and edit them out to make them look smoother. So I will give them credit where credit is due. I think that they did a really good job of their marketing pictures being realistic. But see, this came like dented and tipped over. Again, don't know how much of that is shipping and handling, but this is the shade August. It says it's for, oh, that is not light. That is more pigmented than I thought it was gonna be. This is definitely going to pull orange on me, though I can already tell. There are only 3 shades. This is the lightest shade, but I'm going to just pick it up kind of directly on the brush from the stick. I'm not going to draw these onto my face because that's just not how I typically use stick products. I usually pick them up like this, blend it into the bristles on the back of my hand, and then, okay, it is reading pretty sheer on the face once it's been worked into the brush. Pretty sheer, and when applied, quite sheer. It's really not pulling too orange, or orange in the sense that I would say like, I do prefer sheer cheek products just overall. If you watched my pale makeup video, I'll put it right here, you know that the sheer build up technique is very good on fair skin, so I do appreciate that. But the tone, you know, not my favorite. It is bringing some good warmth to my face, but a little bit more orange than I would like. I would prefer maybe something a little bit more pink in tone. If you have a warmer undertone, this may absolutely be beautiful since it is quite sheer. It's just a little bit too orange for my personal preference. But the formula looks nice. It's sitting on top of the skin tint very nicely. It didn't lift up anything that was underneath it. So I like the formula. I don't love the shade. There are also only 3 shades of bronzer, which is like kind of crazy. Now the blush stick I'm actually quite excited for. This is in the shade Bloom, which is described as a rosy mauve, which sounds like my perfect blush shade. Again, this is what it came like. So the packaging is not great because these keep falling out, but this is the shade Bloom. Again, quite pigmented on the back of the hand. Hopefully when we pick it up with the brush, it is less so. It's very, very creamy on the back of the hand, but I am feeling a little bit of tugging. So I think if you draw this directly onto the face, it is going to pick up some of that skin tint or whatever kind of a complexion product you have on underneath. So I would definitely recommend applying them to the hand first, or picking them up with the brush or sponge directly from the stick rather than drawing them on, because this just feels like a formula that's gonna pick up if applied directly. So again, cleaned off my brush. Gonna pick this up. This looks like it's gonna stay nice and cool toned, which is exciting. And then I'm just gonna tap this onto the cheek. This is a little bit more pigmented than the bronzer, which personally I like a little bit more pigment in my blush than in my bronzer, but that's just because I am a fair cool toned girl and bronzer is just not my favorite part of makeup. If one product is going to be more pigmented, I am glad it is the blush. A rosy mauve, I don't know, once it's on the cheeks, it's translating to a little bit more of that kind of pinky rosy. It's not keeping a lot of that mauve quality, and it's still gorgeous. It's just not keeping that mauve, not lifting anything underneath. It is giving that nice dewy glow. I just wouldn't apply these directly from the stick to the face because they feel like they're gonna lift. And I feel like our cheeks are already quite dewy, so I don't think that we actually even need the High Point illuminating stick, but we are going to use it. This is in the shade Polished, which is supposed to be a rose gold. The swatches online looked fairly deep, and even the color in the container looks fairly deep. They're supposed to be sheer to buildable, so let's swatch this and see. Okay, that still looks, on even on first swatch, that looks like it's gonna be a little too dark for my liking. Even blended out, that's significantly darker than my skin tone. The shade looks like a gorgeous bronzer shade on me. I will say this formula, it just doesn't feel as creamy as the blush and bronzer. I don't want to use the brush. I'm gonna pick this up on my sponge ever so slightly because I feel like that's gonna give us the lightest application, and I am worried about this being too dark, so. Okay, putting it over top of the blush, I don't think it's pulling too dark. I mean, everything's a little bit dewy, but you can see there is some additional glow just in this one little area. Doesn't look to be glittery, which I appreciate. Even on the back of my hand, it's really not too glittery. I wish they had like a lighter pink. Not my favorite, it's just not wowing me. There's nothing about it that's really standing out to me, and I'm like, wow, you know? It's not really doing much for me. And also I think because of how dewy and glowy the blush and bronzer are, I don't really find it necessary to use both. Okay, now let's get into the brow gel. This is the Easy Brow Tinted Brow Gel formulated with biotin and Manoi oil. Manoi oil is just gonna be like nice and oily, nourishing, softening to the brow hairs, I guess, and biotin, I don't know if topically applying biotin to your brows is gonna make them thicker and lusher, but it might, but it also might not. This is $13.99, and you you get 0.14 ounces. I have the shade brown, which is the middle shade. There are 3 shades, and this shade of brown is ever so slightly lighter than the natural shade of my brow hairs. I have used this a couple times. The formula, even pulling it out, you can probably see very, very creamy. It is not crunchy. It is very easy to remove at night. So if that's what they meant by fluffy, is just not crunchy, achieved. I do have a little bit of trouble getting this little inner corner of my brows where I don't have as thick of brow hairs. I don't have an issue with that with something like my Maybelline Super Fluff, but again, that is a different texture of product. I think it's decently pigmented product. You can see it filled in that tail of my brow pretty quickly. The second ingredient in the brow gel is Pullalint, which gives a really smooth texture and creates a film. So I suspect that longevity will not be an issue with this brow gel. It almost feels like they took a pomade or like a sort of cream that you would either squeeze out of a tube or like dip a brush in and put it into this style of container. If I get some, like you just see, I got it outside of my brows. It taps away easily. It doesn't like smudge really, really bad and stain the skin. So I actually do really like the tinted brow gel. The Easy Brow Tinted Brow Gel. I have the shade brown. This is quite nice. Okay, now we have the Cashmere Color Smoothing Lip Blush in the shade Scene, which is described as a neutral pink. This is supposed to be kind of like a matte lip balm, just a general like wash of color, and it definitely is quite sheer. If you go over it a few times, you're never gonna get like full lipstick pigment. It does act more kind of like a tinted lip balm. And because it's so sheer, I don't have an issue with it being rounded like a tinted lip balm, because you don't need to be too concerned with the lines of your lips, because it just, you know, a blush, a flush. It gives that slight tint of color to the lips, but it's not anything super pigmented that you need to be very precise about. So that is just one swipe of the shade Scene over the lips, just a very sheer, kind of a soft matte wash of color. Looking at the ingredients list, there's nothing really in this product that stands out to me. However, they really nailed that performance of a soft matte wash of color on the lips. I think this is an absolutely excellent product for that. If you want a little bit of color to your lips, but you don't like lip glosses, you find them a little bit too sticky or too glossy, and you don't like lipsticks because you find them a little bit too pigmented or just difficult to reapply, kind of carry around throughout the day, I think this is an excellent choice to go for. And I also think maybe you have a daughter or a niece who is like a young teenager or like a tween, and they want to get into wearing makeup and they want something a little bit more than like a Burt's Bees. This will be really nice for them because it does look a little bit more grown up. It looks a little bit more makeup-y. However, it truly is just like that nice little tinted lip balm. It's not too much. They can go to middle school in this and no one's really gonna bat an eye. And if you want a little bit extra from this, just go around the edges of your lips with a lip liner and it'll sharpen that up, but you'll still have a very soft color to the lips. And it's very smooth, not patchy whatsoever. Sometimes sheer and patchy can go hand in hand. However, I would still recommend maybe topping this with another lip balm if you have very dry lips, but doesn't really cling to dry patches on my lips. I have a few, can't really see it at all. And the color is not patchy. It's sheer, but it's smooth across. Out of everything in the entire line, this I think is their best product. Now we have the liquid eyeshadow. This is the Stay Sheer liquid eyeshadow, and I got the shade Haze because it is purple. When it says a sheer buildable liquid eyeshadow, and even in some of the pictures online, I was like, is them saying sheer just like their excuse for it being patchy? So sheer buildable liquid eyeshadows can already get patchy and be difficult to work with, and then purples in terms of makeup can get patchy and be difficult to work with. So I figured this is going to be the perfect storm of those. If this is going to get patchy, weird, bunch up, this is gonna be the shade that's gonna do it. And the fourth ingredient in these eyeshadows is PVP, which is a film former. So I hope to see a lot of longevity from this eyeshadow. However, there are kind of two possible scenarios that make me worry about the buildability and how quickly this is going to set down. So the first one being that they lay down, set the eyeshadow very quickly, and then when you go and put wet eyeshadow over top of that eyeshadow that's already dried down, it's gonna pick it up, it's gonna bunch, it's gonna get patchy, it's not going to build evenly. And the second scenario being when you apply that second layer over top, that first layer is already completely set down and that film prevents that fresh liquid eyeshadow from disturbing the eyeshadow underneath, which is going to lead to a smoother application. I hope for the second one, but we will see. Again, this is the liquid eyeshadow in the shade Haze, which is kind of a jewel toned purple, and you can already see from spreading it out it is pretty sheer. I don't think it's looking patchy. Truly, it doesn't look too bad. And honestly, on the hand, this is turning more into like even like a chocolate bronze than it is a purple. I feel like that's kind of been the general theme of the day, is the formulas are really good, but the colors, I'm like, I would change this about it. I would change that about it. So you know what? I'm gonna apply it directly to my eyelid with the applicator and see how that goes. There is nothing on my eyelids. They are completely bare. I'm gonna take my finger because these seem like pretty, you know, supposed to be for like a girl on the go. So I'm gonna try and tap it out with my finger, and I feel like if it's gonna get patchy, a finger is gonna be the quickest way to do that. So it is shearing out pretty nicely. It's not setting super duper fast. I feel like I still have a decent amount of time to work with this. Okay, so that is quite sheer. This is almost completely set. I want to build up another layer and see if it's going to get patchy. Color me corrected. That is not getting patchy at all. That is actually building quite nicely. I will say it's not as easy to blend that second layer, but it's not getting patchy. It is just sheer. And the color is actually quite nice. It is reading a bit more purple on the eyes, which I like. That's a win. That is a win for the colors today. Ooh, but also they said that you can use this brush to apply the eyeshadows as well. Like they said, tip it upside down and then go in. This brush tipped upside down. I'm gonna make it so that way you can see and I'm also holding it correctly. Okay, this is don't use a brush. Don't use a brush. I would recommend using your fingers. It's bunching, it's getting patchy. It's just not blending out smoothly. It's bunching, and on the inner corner, it is also bunching. And that happened very quickly. And it's also set down very quickly. So I think the warmth of using your fingertip really helps with the spreadability and the smoothness of the formula. I'm gonna try and see if I can save this. Definitely savable with a finger. I'm interested to see if these crease, because again, they do have that high concentration of film former. Definitely apply them with your finger, not with a brush, but this is going to be one of the things that at the end of the day check-in, I'm going to be most curious about. And the last product that I have before I set my face and we do our wear test is the Soft Gloss Tinted Serum. This is in the shade Bake, which is a warm beige. This is one of the products that they did send to me because I said that I didn't think it were going to work well. And I did ask for a darker shade and they sent me the lighter shade. So maybe they're hiding something. I don't know, because it's definitely going to be harder to see if this pools in the lip lines because it is a lighter shade than something like the deep kind of cherry plum that I asked for. I mean, first of all, I don't love clicky pens. These are not my favorite sort of component for a kind of lip gloss stick. This shade being a warm beige, I do worry that it's gonna pull orange on me, especially even just watching on my hand. This doesn't look like this looks like it's gonna pull orange. I'll grab another kind of neutral nude kind of lip gloss stick. Hold on. This is the Divs Jam Jam in the shade Fig Fantasy. So you can see that's just a little bit peachier. So this does not pull orange on me. I worry a little bit that this will. And it looks a little bit goopy once melted on the hand, similar to something like the Tarte. Hopefully it's not as goopy on the lips as the Tarte, but just kind of looks like a standard formula. It does have shea butter in it, which I don't love to see in lip products, but because it's a stick, I hope it's not grainy, because in a lot of squeezy tube lip balms, like this EOS lip butter, this has shea butter and it's quite grainy. So I don't love seeing shea butter in lip products. So the thing I am most interested to see is, does this offer actual hydration to my lips? Is the color going to pool in the lip line? And is it goopy? Again, this is the shade Bake. It's not as goopy as the Tarte. It is melty, but it's not goopy melty. In terms of shine, I would put it bordering high shine. It is quite shiny, glossy. It has a very nice smooth feel on the lips. There's no graininess from that shea butter, but it also doesn't feel like a slip and slide. My lips are tingling slightly. Is there like menthol in here or something? Nope, there is not. I don't know why. Has a slight kind of cooling sensation on the lips. Don't know what that's from. The shade is a little bit warmer than I would personally like. What's new? But it feels quite nice. It feels like it's gonna wear off nicely as well. It doesn't feel like it's gonna disappear in 5 seconds. I really feel like there's menthol in here, but there's not. But my lips feel like a really like a cooling sensation. The color is not pooling, but again, this is the lightest shade. That's why I wanted the dark one. It is clinging to like dry skin on the inside of my lips though, which is so funny that the gloss is doing that, but the matte did not. Okay, just to set my face with the Makeup by Mario powder and put on a little bit of mascara. So this is kind of what everything's looking like right now, up close and personal, freshly applied. So right now, let's just do a quick overview of everything before the end of the day check-in. So the face primer, absolute garbage. It didn't do a dang thing. Don't buy this. Skin tint is quite nice, light coverage. It just has a very strong sunscreen smell, which I don't love, but in terms of performance, so far, pretty nice. The concealer, very, very light serum texture, really nice, light coverage. You're not gonna get a lot of coverage from this, and it does oxidize, unfortunately. The bronzer, very nice, creamy, sheer formula, just don't love the shade. The blush, again, very nice, creamy, sheer, buildable formula. I like the shades of these more than the shades of the bronzer. I think they need more bronzer shades. 3 is just unacceptable. The highlight, I don't think you need this, especially with how dewy everything else is on the cheek. I don't think that you need this, and the pink shade, just too dark on very fair skin. The brow gel, I quite like it. It doesn't do anything bad to my brows, doesn't change my life, but not bad. The lip blush, I think, is the standout product kind of from this whole thing. I don't have a negative thing to say about this, and this might be the only thing in this video that I don't have a single negative thing to say about. I think this is a really great formula that they executed very well. The liquid eyeshadows, I really feel like I can't judge this until the end of the day. I will say on that side where I started with a brush and then ended with my finger, it is patchy. So I'm not loving that. The side where I only use my finger, it looks a lot better, but I need to wait to see if this like creases or gets patchy throughout the day. So this will be an end of the day product. And if I for some reason forget to do a check-in at the end of the day, I will have everything and how it wore listed down in the description box, along with everything will be linked, of course. And also the Soft Gloss Tinted Lip Serum. The shade I don't love. I wish I had a different shade. It's really not too bad in terms of a warm lip. Decent shine. Color is still not pooling, but it's because it's a lighter shade. Yeah, it's fine. Comfortable on the lips, a little bit cooling. And the brush is nice. It's a nice, dense brush. You can clean it off easily. It did work with everything fairly well, except for the eyeshadow. But so this is how everything's looking right now, and I will do a check-in at the end of the day. So this is the makeup after 7.5, almost 8 hours. I didn't get the chance to sit down and film a full check-in, but here's what my makeup looks like at the end of the day. I think the skin tint and the concealer held up pretty well. All of the cheek products, the bronzer, the blush, and the highlight all faded, and same with the eyeshadow. The liquid eyeshadow is completely just faded off of my lids. The brow product was just, you know, a brow product. Nothing crazy, didn't wow me at all. I think I was most impressed with the lip products because they just felt the best, executed the best, and wore the best throughout the day. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and got some good information about the entire new Versed makeup line. If you've tried any of this line, please let me know what you've tried and what your thoughts were, because I'm so curious to see what you guys think of this collection. Maybe I talked you into some products, maybe I talked you out of some products if you were considering them. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.